So in today's video, we're going to continue off from the last video and we're going to actually sew our shorts together. So if you want to see how to do it, just keep watching. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take one front and one back, both going the same direction like this. You're going to line up these sides and we're going to clip. So again, you know your back is your back because it's longer and your front is kind of curved like this and it's shorter than the back. Your back normally has just a higher rise because of, you know, your butt and the way that it sits. So we're just gonna clip it all the way up. So you're gonna do that to both sets. So you have two of them. So now that we have these both clipped or pinned, whatever your preference is, we're gonna sew at a 1/4 seam allowance along these. You can use your sewing machine with a stretch stitch, like a lightning bolt stitch, or that one that has like 3 stitches all right next to each other, and that kind of creates a stretch stitch. Or you can do a zigzag stitch, whatever you prefer. I'm going to be using a serger. I really like my serger and I think it comes in handy. Okay, so this is what my serger looks like. So I'm basically just going to lift my presser foot up. I'm going to put my fabric underneath, take off my first clip. We're going to do a 1/4 seam allowance. And then I'm just going to sew all the way to the other side. Just take out your clips and pins as you get to them. I'm going to do the same to my other piece. What's really nice about sergers is that as you're sewing, it cuts off the seam allowance. So it cuts off the extra and everything is just finished, no raw edges. And it's just so much nicer. So it's much easier, I realize as I'm doing this, to start at the straight end than the tip, than the top of the shorts, because when I started at the top, they didn't really line up. So start at the bottom, and I think that'll make it line up. Trick to making your garments just look so much nicer and professional is to steam them. So steam, open up your pants that you just did, and we're gonna just open it up to the backside, and we're gonna take that seam and we're going to just steam it to one side. And you see it's no longer all wavy. And then we're gonna flip it over and we're gonna steam on the front as well. Okay, so we're gonna do that to all our pieces, but we're also at this point just going to hem because this is gonna be so much easier. You could also clip your threads because we're gonna be sewing over them, so it doesn't really matter. We don't need them. And our hem allowance is 1/2 inch. So you can take a seam gauge if you would like. I'm just gonna mark 1/2 inch from my bottom. And we're gonna hem now because it's just much easier to do it now, especially if you're sewing like a small size. I'm doing a 5. It's just easier than having to do it when it's like sewn in a circle. So I'm just gonna take it and we're gonna fold it inward at that line. And then you can take your iron and you can just, and then you can clip it. Just like that. And just clip it. And now I'm going to take it to my cover stitch and I am going to hem that at right there all the way through. And make sure that you do this to the other piece as well. This is how my cover stitch looks. It looks a lot similar to my serger. So what a cover stitch does is it hems and kind of just leaves this nice finish. You'll kind of see that the inside of it will look like what the serger thread kind of looked like. And then the outside would just look like a double, if you were using like a twin needle. So I'm just going to take my clip off. And my presser foot is lifted. So I'm gonna line up my fabric here at the end of my presser foot. Line it up there, put my presser foot down, and I'm just gonna start sewing all the way to the other side. So the front looks like this, kind of like a double, like if you're using a twin needle. And then the back looks like this. So it'll be nice and finished, no raw edges, and it stretches with it, and it'll just look nice and professional. So I'm gonna do that to the second piece as well. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take each piece that we have and we're gonna grab it and we're gonna sew from the crotch to the bottom. So we're gonna clip these, and if you're doing the legging, same thing, from the point right here all the way to the bottom. I'm doing the shorts, so I don't have to do too much. So just like that, and we're gonna sew at a 1/4 seam allowance from there to there. I'm gonna sew starting at the bottom where we hemmed to the point. Again, just because that's gonna let me be able to line up that point better. So just like that. Do the same to the other leg. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna turn one of your legs right side out, and we can trim the top thread up here, but not the one in the bottom, because that one's not gonna get sewn to anything. So we wanna make sure we tuck in that bottom one. We're gonna take the one that is wrong side out. This is gonna be on the outside. You're gonna take the one you just turned right side out. You're gonna put it inside of the one that is wrong side out. And make sure that when you're doing this, you have your back to your back and your front to your front. So, just like that. So, I'm going to line up right here where my crotch is. I'm going to line that up. I find it best to kind of open up that seam, kind of line it up, and then make one seam go this way and the other one go the other way, and then you clip it. And now we're gonna clip it all the way to this side and all the way to this other side. So from this side to this side, that big U is what you're gonna clip right now. And now we're gonna serge or sew whatever you're doing from this side to this side. And when you come to that seam, I would take out the clip at last minute, because I think that's just a better way of making sure that your seam doesn't unalign again. So now if you were to just flip everything right side out, you would have little shorts or leggings already. So the pattern tells you what to cut your elastic to, but I know my daughter and her waist is tiny, so I just got some of her pants and measured the waist of that, and then I just added 1/2 inch to that. And the reason for that is because the pattern calls to overlap it by 1/2 inch. So what I'm gonna do is, I already cut my elastic. I'm gonna measure from the corner, from the end, and I'm gonna just mark it with my pen so that I know where to overlap it at. So I'm gonna just bring my other side like this. Just line it up at that line. I'm gonna just clip it. And we're gonna take this to our sewing machine. You can't use your serger for this. We're gonna use our sewing machine. And you're just going to zigzag in 2 columns. One closer to this end right here where you overlapped, and the other one closer to the other end over here, so that it's secure in place. This is my sewing machine. I have a Baby Lock Brilliant as my sewing machine, and I love it. So I am going to make a zigzag on here, put it under my presser, put my needle down, and then again I'm going to do a zigzag stitch from the top to the bottom on both sides. Make sure to back stitch at the end, beginning and end. And I'm actually gonna do a third one like right in the middle of both of those, just to secure it even more. And the reason why we're doing a zigzag is because this is gonna stretch. It's at the waist, it's gonna stretch every time you put it on. And you don't want those stitches to kind of rip off really easily. So now it's just like that. It's nicely secured. We are almost done with our project. So we're on to the final steps pretty much. So now we're gonna flip our pants inside out, and you can clip any of those serger threads that you have up on top. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take our elastic. We're kind of gonna line up that part in the front, in the middle, make sure it's in the middle. And we're gonna put a clip on that back piece. And then we're gonna put a clip on the, like right in front of it, on the piece in the front. So like that. Make sure it's even. And then once we line those two up, I'm gonna come to this side and we're gonna put a clip right here. And now we're gonna do the same to the other side. And this is just gonna help us evenly put it on our pants. So we're gonna take our pants and we're gonna take our elastic. I'm gonna line up that back seam with the seam that we sewed. So I'm just gonna clip it, making sure they line up. And then I'm gonna line up my side seam with this one, with my side clip, my front seam with the front clip, and then my other one, my last side seam with that other clip, just like that. And I'm just gonna clip it all the way around. And then we're gonna take this to our serger. You can use your sewing machine and do a stretch stitch. And we're just gonna sew the top all the way around. So now all that we're gonna do is we're gonna fold that over. And we're going to just top stitch all alongside. I'm gonna use my cover stitch for this, but you're just gonna top stitch right there at the edge of it. So because we're gonna top stitch, you can cut off your serger tails. I'm gonna top stitch this. Okay, so now the last thing to do is to just tuck in our serger tail. I'm just gonna use a needle threader, upholstery needle. I'm gonna go into my serger thread here. This is my tail part. I'm gonna stick the needle here through the top, through my serger tails. And then I'm gonna take my needle threader, wanna pull it through. You can trim it a little bit. You really don't need that big of a tail. And then basically you're just gonna pull it through until it all comes through, and then just trim it. And then you can use something like fray check, and you can put that on there just to help it not fray over time. And there, that's it. Your shorts are finished. Your shorts are done. Look how cute those are.